Miami and Los Angeles are ruining fashion is something that I have said in the past. Roll the tape. Both Los Angeles, California, and Miami, Florida are places that are filled to the brim, overflowing with clout-brained little goblins, fake as and all of these, I would say, are varying degrees of industry plants. It makes it a product as opposed to a piece of art. Now, do I stand by these statements, these incendiary statements? They're really aggressive, don't you think? Maybe I've mellowed a bit in the time since, right? No, I still generally agree with everything I said about Miami and LA and the pull that they're having on the entire modern streetwear landscape. You see, here's the core of it that I wasn't really able to fully get at in that original video, and it's that historically, the centers of fashion within the world have been New York and Paris, and I guess you could say Milan as well. And I think this has historically worked very well because these are centers of industry and culture. And in these cities, clothing is kind of like a key industry. So in a lot of ways, the fashion industries there exist for the sake of the clothes themselves. I'd love to elaborate more on that in another video, but Miami and LA have their own homegrown brands, but they look and feel and walk and talk very differently than the New York or Paris brands of old. And I think there's a reason for that. I think it's because clout is so central to both of those cities. Think about this. In New York, you are a fashionable person, you're looking at the latest styles, and that's what it's all about. You're trying to spot trends, find something that's fitting for you, and just find something that works within your life. If you're a person in LA or Miami that's into luxury fashion, in that case, there's a good chance that you are trying to communicate through your clothing that you are a person of status. And honestly, that's always been like the not-so-secret underbelly, an ideology that drives all luxury goods. But in LA and Miami, it's not just, I want to look good and I want to look expensive. It's, I want people to notice me and think of me as somebody that is above them, that they can adore, that they can aspire to, and even pay $10, $20, $500 to go see them on the movie screen or in a concert. And before you think I'm being crazy hyperbolic, I have a great example for you here. So there is a multi-brand boutique called Patron of the New, and they have two locations. One of them is in New York City, okay, and the other one is in Miami. And I think these two stores tells the story of the differences between Miami and New York so much better than I ever could with my crappy little words that I got here. So at Patron of the New in New York City, you're gonna go in, you're gonna find beautiful, high-end, luxurious, fancy stuff, you know, like Celine, or maybe some Loewe, you know? Even Dior. Yes, Christian Dior, that Dior. So you become a fan of that New York location. They've even got some chrome heart sunglasses that you can grab. You love it. So next time you go to Miami, you see that there's a Patron of the New there. You're like, I'm gonna go in because I love that spot. But when you go into the Miami shop, you will have a drastically different experience than you would in New York. Because the Miami location, while I love it, I love Patron of the New, I do. It is fuckboy central, okay? Whereas the New York location is like, can we interest you in some Loewe? The Miami location is like, yo, do you want some Better With Age? And I say, the fuck I don't, because Better With Age is just Supreme for rich kids who are too young to remember when Supreme was actually cool. But it's not just that, You're gonna go there, you're gonna find, you know, Who Decides War, and Casablanca, and Bossy, and ERD, and Amiri, and Second Layer, just the Miami LA vibe in a nutshell. Now, in my previous video about how LA and Miami are ruining fashion, I mentioned one particular store, and actually, it's a store that is in Miami, literally across the street from Patron of the New, probably their biggest competitor, I'd have to assume, and that store is called Market, just spelled like M-R-K-T. And when you go in there, it's much the same experience, honestly, as going to Patron of the New. It's very well curated, they know their vibe, they know the brands that speak to their clientele, but look, you go in here, you're gonna be looking at some Satoshi Nakamoto, okay? You're gonna be looking at RRR, 123, and Pally Hollywood. Sure, they got ready-made, but that shit is like more expensive than ERD sometimes. But for better or worse, every single time I go to Miami, I visit both of these spots. Now, I'm not gonna lie, I am preferential to Patient of the New, but probably only because they have probably the best ERD selection in Miami. But Market also has ERD, so I also make sure to stop in there. And usually I'm not like the biggest fan of what I see. It's nice, it's cool, it's got that LA Miami core vibe going on, you know what I mean? But outside of the ERD, I don't really like any of it. But there is one really good thing that Market have going for them, and that is that they are kind of an incubator of sorts for up-and-coming designer brands, just ones with a certain type of vibe, you know? But that means you can go in there and find brands that you maybe haven't heard of before. Like, that's how I found Kawajo Masato, who's a really cool guy doing reworked vintage stuff with like rhinestones and chain stitching. But last time I went into Market, they had one designer that I had A, never ever heard of before, and B, kind of blew my socks off if I'm being honest. And that's what I want to talk about today, because this brand is maybe single-handedly overhauling my negative opinions on LA and Miami core brands. They are called Jetpack Homme. Or I guess you could also say Jetpack Home, because one of the M's is in parentheses, and that's very intentional because it is a unisex brand, but with like a menswear vibe. And this brand is honestly just really sick. I really like what they're doing. They do everything that I love about a small designer fashion brand. The first piece that Market had that really caught my attention was this like almost layered muslin long sleeve sweatshirt, whatever you want to call it, with a really cool graphic. And it really harkened back to me to the old like Vivienne Westwood Seditionaries era when she was dressing the Sex Pistols, those muslin pieces. I've always loved, I've always wanted one. And when I saw this Jetpack piece at Market, that brought up all of those feelings for me. And I look at the label and it says Jetpack, and I'm like, what is this? I even asked the owner, like, tell me about this. This is so cool. And he shows me across the store to another Jetpack piece they had. And this one was even crazier. This one was a cracked green leather trucker jacket with like inside out kind of reverse seams, made out of lambskin in the USA, but it's like Italian leather. It was just a gorgeous piece. So I immediately made a mental note, like, this is a brand that I need to know more about. And when I looked into it, I just started liking it more and more because this is a brand that actually wants to make you think about luxury clothing, about garments in general. This stuff is handmade in the USA with often like vintage dead stock fabric made with classic high-end construction. And the treatments, it'll be like stuff like inside out seams and loose threads and stuff in a way that makes you think about luxury clothing. It makes you question what makes something luxury. It shows you, it puts the seams literally in your face in front of you and tells you, this is clothing. This is what it is. It's not the shiny, glossy, polished exterior that most of these luxury brands show you. It is something handmade, more organic, more central to ourselves as humans who dress ourselves as part of our culture so that we're not naked all the time. Yeah, it's so cool. There's so much interesting like messaging, honestly, and philosophy to get into here. So as soon as I found out about all of this stuff, I reached out to them. I was like, your stuff is really awesome, and I'd love to be involved. I'd love to check it out more. And their founder, Ryan, was really cool and nice enough to help me get my hands on a few pieces. Now, I want to be clear, I did pay for these, just not like full retail price, but we have got a haul to look at today. We have, 3 shirts right here, a long sleeve and 2 t-shirts. And then we have a piece of jewelry, which I think is just incredible. So we're gonna check out the details of all these pieces, look at what makes Jetpack so cool and what makes it speak to me so much. And then we're gonna try these on, try some fits out, see how they feel, how they fit, all that stuff. So make sure you stick around. Let's get into it. But first, I'm going to need you all to go subscribe to my Patreon. If you want access to my super secret Discord where I post stuff for sale that I've featured on the channel, you got to get in there. If you want exclusive videos like the one that I just posted this past week, you got to get in there. And if you want to be shouted out in videos, like for instance, thank you, Henry K., get into that Patreon. The link is in the description. All right, we have got a lot to look at here. 3 shirts and a piece of jewelry. We'll get to this in a little bit. Let's start first with this red long sleeve. All right, so this first one is the red matchbook long sleeve graphic t-shirt, and there's a lot of really cool stuff here, but first I want to check out the basics because this is like the first one. Really cool tag in like gold here. I love that. Size tag right underneath, so this one is a large, and then the brand tags here, very cool, Jetpack Ohm. And you really get a sense of like the vibe of the brand. It's a lot more playful, honestly, than the type of stuff we usually cover on the channel, but I think that's like a nice change of pace, and I think it's philosophically in a much more similar territory than you might expect. And how about the care tags here? So you get the brand name, website, and then it is made in USA. Love to see it. And actually, I just noticed, this is the first kind of indication you get that they're doing things a little bit differently. So go look inside any t-shirt you own and look at what the side seams look like on the inside, because they don't look like this. It doesn't look like this was serged with a serger, which pretty much everybody does. That is like a double top stitch that he used for the side seams. I don't think I've ever seen that before, but like it's much cleaner. That's really cool with the rolled edges there. And there is actually, I think, a reason, a very specific reason why they didn't use a serger for those seams. And that's because if you used a serger, you wouldn't be able to do this. Now, this probably won't come out very well just hanging up on camera here, but hopefully we'll see it better when we put it on. But right at the sleeves here, getting towards the wrist, it completely opens up. So totally normal cuffs here as well, but then you've got openings right there. So kind of like slit wrists, honestly, if we're being real about it. I don't know if that symbology is intended, but it's there and it's interesting. So this shirt, only 10 of them were made, and actually the fabric came from repurposing old vintage t-shirts. And the graphics themselves come from like old post-war matchboxes. And this one is like Berliner, right? So it's got like a European vibe, post-war vibe, kind of like creepy, especially given that it's so distorted. You also get some really cool, like, again, distorted diamond-shaped graphics at each sleeve here. I really love this floral, actually. And you can tell that the graphics have a different kind of vibe because unlike most brands which are doing like screen printing, these were digitally printed. So it gives it like a sort of, I don't know, artificial digital sheen on top of something that is very vintage. And I think that's a great juxtaposition. So as you can see, the construction of this is just way cleaner than your usual factory-made t-shirt. Somebody cared about this, cared enough to put it together well, you know? And you know, it's actually fitting that this one has Matchbox artwork because we're gonna need some matches to go with our next piece. Because I think it's only fitting that we check out the piece of jewelry that we got. So this one comes in just like a cardboard little box here, and I think that's just like drawn on with an ink pen, you know? Moment of truth, okay? Oh God, they made a mistake. They sent me a cigarette butt. That's so rude. Ryan of Jetpack Ohm, how could you do this to me? I'm just kidding. That's the piece. This is a resin-coated cigarette butt. Smoked, pre-kind of pinched, you know, that's so cool. I love that. This is actually one of Jetpack's oldest styles. They've been doing this since 2016. And really what they're doing is they're kind of playing with the idea of upcycling and repurposing, how all these people are trying to take old, used stuff and make it worth hundreds or thousands of dollars through upcycling. But what about a used cigarette butt? Giving it this glossy sheen to glamorize something so banal and also deadly. So for this particular style, they use Marlboro. Of course they do, makes sense. And they actually draw in, again, the logo right here. Really clean, surprisingly clean. And you know I'm a sucker for silver. So the chain is sterling silver, and the closure is unlike anything I've seen before. So it's actually a keychain closure, and I really like the way this looks when you actually get it close to the cigarette butt itself. So normally you put the closure in the back, right? But I personally think it actually gives it a really nice look when you wear it more like this. I know it's weird to be so excited about a closure, but like That's just really nice and really cool. So hopefully now you understand why we needed the matches here. Anyway, if you watch my channel, you may be familiar with Alexander DeGenova, and he did these resin-coated cigarette packs, and while I really like those, they had a kind of like edgy vibe, right? That punk vibe, whereas this, I think, has a little bit more intention to it, as do all of his pieces. Like, I think that's one of my biggest criticisms of LA and Miami fashion, is that it's just luxury for luxury's sake, whereas this is refreshing in that it's actually trying to get at something bigger. And speaking of things with an actual idea behind them, let's get back to a t-shirt here, this time a short sleeve t-shirt. This right here is the Soda Green deconstructed t-shirt, and this one, I'm just crazy about this. And when I said it, this one has an actual idea behind it, that's because the creator, Ryan, he told me that this one was inspired by going to thrift stores as a kid and seeing the ways that they would like hastily hang up t-shirts either inside out, backwards, stuff like that. So that's exactly what this is. It is essentially inside out and backwards. Again, it's created from upcycled vintage t-shirts, and you've got inside out seams here. So this is the kind of like piping, right, that you usually see at the back neck inside of a t-shirt. You've got loose threads hanging out, giving it that kind of handmade feel. I think that fringe is really nice. You also get differences in length here, which is really cool. But maybe most impressively is that he kind of reworked the entire pattern of a normal t-shirt, because what he did is he took the front neck here and shifted it so that it sits a bit more like wearing a t-shirt backwards. So the front kind of fits more like a normal back of a t-shirt. On this one, I really love this. The neck tag is at the outside on the sleeves, again, matching the inside out feel. There's a patchwork quality to it, like with these panels down the sides, which I think, again, give it a really nice look. You also get reverse seams here at the hem. And at the back here, I think you can see it kind of looks more like the front of a t-shirt. The graphic on this is a patch, actually, so you can see it sewn down around the edges on a piece of like canvas, I guess I would call this. And really cool, it's got a kind of like punk vibe to it, sound waves, planets, kind of like sketchy. It kind of reminds me of like a punk show flyer or something. I like both of their tags. Let me know which one you prefer. I kind of like the bronze color of this. And this one is in a size medium, so we'll see how the size differs from the last one, which was a large. So yeah, to me, this one is just like punk through and through. All right, we've made it to the final piece, the final t-shirt here, and this one might be the most impressive. This one right here is the Beam Me Up t-shirt, and as you can see, there is a lot going on here. Now, if you're like me and you are a crazy Enfant Riche Déprimé fan, the first thing you may have thought of when you saw this is the Yeezy piece from Yeezy Season 5. Now, Henry Levy, the founder of ERD, created this piece for Yeezy, and much like the Beam Me Up t-shirt, this one is a smorgasbord, however you pronounce that word, of different graphics and motifs that have spoken to Henry throughout the years of his design. But this one, comparatively, I think is much more playful, much more like authentically childlike, and just is really coming from a different point of view. To me, the reference that really connects with this one is actually Daniel Johnston. And if you're not familiar with Johnston, he was a really, really gifted, talented, interesting musician and artist. He had Supreme collaborations, stuff like that. But really just his like sketchy, childlike outsider art was so singular and interesting. Now, I have no idea what Ryan Morar, how to pronounce that? Sorry, I don't know. I have no idea what he looks like, sounds like, or anything, but if I were just to create a mental model in my head, I've got like that soft-spoken, nerdy, kind of like timid, anxious, outsidery Daniel Johnston vibe through and through. And these shirts, they're handmade. He's only made about 7 of them over the course of many years, so every one is a little bit different. And apparently all of this text and art and stuff is kind of about how mundane everyday life is and hoping for something to come along and kind of change your fortunes and just make life more worth living. You know what I mean? And you can see that so clearly here. Me, it wishes for a better life. Beam me up. Off you go. Off into space, into the stratosphere. But then you've got some more like mature adult themes coming through with these smoking lips. Who the hell are you anyway? There's definitely like some personal historical stuff going on there, you have to assume. I'll just let you check this out. Pause if you want to, because there's so much cool stuff here. But it's just crazy the amount of work that has to go into these. And what's really cool is that each one is a little bit different because they're handmade. He even hand dyes them so the colors will change from piece to piece. And much like the last one, this one, it's got like reverse serged seams around the arms, down the side. You've got like black threads hanging down from the seams, which actually makes a really nice contrast with the green of the dye. We get a tag at the arm here, and this one, oh man, I'm a silver boy. Give me the silver tag all day. Ryan, use this one. And the handwork nature just keeps going here. Like you can see, he is cut and re-sewn in multiple places. Like all of this is just reconstructed with visible white seams. I love this sketch of this girl right here. That's sick. Clothing, earth, jetpack home. I'm just gonna jetpack back home, baby. That's what we're gonna do. In 30 years, this will be considered vintage. True, this guy gets it. And then you also get some really nice print around the neckline, which I think always gives a kind of edgy punk vibe for some reason. And one other thing you may have also noticed is that on this one, we get the care tags on the outside. So he is fully committed to the inside out nature of this one. Now this one is a size extra large, which is not my size. So we'll see how it works. We'll see if we can get a fit going, but I could not let this one pass me by. I knew I had to show this one on the channel because it's just so impressive on so many levels. Like you have to appreciate someone who's actually trying, who's working to make something as simple and classic as a t-shirt feel new and fresh and interesting and be able to say something about the state of fashion. Whew, these are some heaters, right? I'm so excited. But now we've got to try them on. Like we know we like how they look, how they feel, we like the vibe, the ethos, the philosophy, but it doesn't mean a whole lot unless it looks good, right? But we can't just wear these. We need to know what we're gonna wear them with. All right, finding the pieces that would work with all three of these was incredibly difficult. I don't know if we got there, but we're just gonna try some stuff. We'll see how it goes. For pants, I definitely wanted jeans, something with an older kind of vibe. So I actually have these layered Balenciaga jeans here. We're probably not gonna see the camo part of it in any of the fits. So really what we're looking at here is this nice, washed, faded, super baggy pair of long denim jeans here. For outerwear, again, I wanted to give it that kind of dated feel. So we actually have a Pally jacket here. This is the Canvas Tear Me Up jacket right here, kind of modeled, I think, after old like Carhartt canvas jackets, stuff like that. Hopefully that works out okay. And the Balenciaga jeans are gonna cover most of our footwear here. We're not gonna see much, but I think I'm gonna use the 14th edition Elvis punk boots because basically all we're gonna see of these is just probably the front of the toe. And I like how that cut and sew reconstructed vibe carries over from the t-shirts to these boots here. And then we'll accessorize, we'll try stuff out, we'll try and make them work. Let's see what happens. I'm kind of scared. I don't know if, even for an expert like me, right, a master, I'm not a master, even for me, putting together a fit that works with a red piece, a lime green piece, and a faded green piece, that's kind of tough. But we'll do our best. We've also picked some wild pieces here. First off with the Balenciaga jeans, these things are crazy. Demna goes crazy. I'm actually also gonna put on a belt. This was actually made by Amish people, handmade leather belt by the Amish. For some of these accessories, I'm gonna pick things that kind of thematically work with the jetpack pieces, and I think the like handmade nature of this makes sense here. Anyway, normally I'd probably put the belt at the camo part, but here I'm just gonna use it at the jeans because we're never gonna see the camo part from here on out. And as you can see, these are crazy baggy, crazy long. I hope they work out here. This is gonna be a very relaxed fit. All right, and you know what? Right away, I think we can try out the necklace, the resin-coated cigarette butt. I'm obsessed with this. I think this is such a cool idea. Really interesting, really unique, kind of singular, thoughtful, cerebral type of piece. But yeah, you can get this in different lengths. This, I think, might be the shortest one, and I really like where it sits. I just like necklaces that kind of sit in this type of range. And as you can see, I really like putting the keychain down by the cigarette butt itself, but you could also swing it around, put it in back if you wanted, but I think this necklace is gonna hold down all of these fits here. All right, real quick, we'll throw on the 14th edition Elvis punk shoes, As I mentioned, with those jeans coming over, you really don't get much boot, but yeah, I like that kind of stitched, reconstructed leather for the toe box. All right, first Jetpack shirt here, we've got the red long sleeve matchbook piece. And this one is tagged a size large, and obviously in the body it's quite long, it's quite wide. That makes sense, it fits like a large, but actually the sleeves are shorter than you would expect, and they actually fit me very well. They fall at just the right place for me as a person who usually wears like a small, maybe a medium. And now that we've got this on, we can throw some other jewelry on. I'll do our Chrome Hearts rings, Enfant Riche de Premier rings, and also an ERD bracelet, which is, I also think, kind of thematically consistent with Jetpack because it has like a belt buckle for the buckle, but then the band of the bracelet, right, is kind of like vintage silver spoons in a way, and I think that makes sense here. All right, but now we gotta check out the split seams in the sleeves, putting our arms through those. I actually have no idea if this is intentional, if this is a way you're supposed to kind of try it and potentially wear it, but you know what? It kind of works. I think Rick Owens has actually done sleeves with a similar type of vibe to this, if I remember correctly. And with the red color, it actually gets a cape, matador type of vibe almost. All right, real quick, throwing on the Pally canvas jacket. Yeah, it's a nice wide fit for all of these pieces, honestly. So this is kind of like, if I was just going out, if I wanted to like drip when I was going shopping or going out to grab a coffee, doing some thrifting, whatever, like this would be a fun fit here. But let's move it right along. Let's try out the Soda Green patch t-shirt, the inside out backwards t-shirt. There's so much going on here. And throwing it on, this one's tagged a medium, so it definitely fits much more kind of typically for me. But the interesting part is you can definitely see how at the front by the chest and neck here, it is like if you took a t-shirt and put it on backwards. It has that kind of like high and tight sort of fit to it, you get it? But I love this. It just has like heavy punk vibes, you know. I've been going to punk shows, hardcore shows, playing these shows and touring around the country since I was a teenager. And this is the type of thing that wouldn't look out of place there unless you got a closer look. Like from afar, it's got a punk vibe. And then when you look at the details of construction, you're like, oh, there's something going on at a higher level here that I need to investigate. So yeah, this is easily one of my favorites. I think they did a great job with this shirt. I also like how this one fits with the Pally jacket, actually. I don't know, it looks kind of tough in a way, somehow, the way all these fits come together. All right, and last but definitely not least, the Beam Me Up t-shirt with all this like hand-done, scribbly, doodly artwork, Daniel Johnston vibes. I love it. And this one is tagged the biggest size of them all. This one's tagged an extra large, which is many sizes larger than what I usually wear. But when I put it on, it actually maybe makes the most sense of any of them because obviously these are Balenciaga jeans, and if you've ever had a Balenciaga t-shirt, the extra smalls, the smalls, they fit like 2XLs, you know what I mean? So these jeans were kind of made to go with t-shirts that have this kind of fit. So I think like the width, the drop of the shoulders, the extra long length of the shirt, all of that plays really well with these jeans. Of course, all the artwork is sick. I think my favorite, which we didn't even look at when we were checking out the details, is like the face on the sleeve here. But I really like that from every single angle here, you've got something interesting to look at. No piece of this t-shirt was left unnoticed. Everything's got something to add a little intrigue, add a little spark. And again, throwing on the jacket, I think it works the best here. All of the colors are also playing together really well. I think there are some like green undertones in the wash of the jeans and a little bit in the wash of the canvas jacket as well. So from a color perspective too, everything is feeling like really cohesive together. Especially when you like drop those shoulders on the jacket, I really like the way it looks. So yeah, Jetpack, very different than my normal style. Like this is a far cry, right, from the point of view of ERD or something like that, or a Japanese archive brand, right? This feels very Americana, vintage, conceptual, crafty, but in like a good way, you know? So I'm definitely gonna be following Jetpack. I wanna see where they go from here. They've been doing it actually a lot longer than you would expect. Again, I mentioned 2016 is when they made this necklace. And now they're at Market, they're at H. Lorenzo, so they've got some really cool, really good stockists. So I'm excited to see what happens because I think they could take off in a really interesting way. All right, that's the video. Thank you so much for watching. Let me know down below what you think of Jetpack, what you think of LA core, Miami core fashion, what you think a patron of the new, a market, about this whole scene that's going on. I'm so excited to hear your thoughts. Check out the other video on screen here. Do this like engagement-y stuff that helps me in the YouTube algorithm, and I'll see you next time.